the January meeting of the Warren County Board of Supervisors. Please rise while Supervisor Loeb leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The accounting would be better.
The clerk will read the roll.
Mr. Leggett?
Here.
Mr. Diamond?
Here.
Mr. McDevitt?
Here.
Ms. Bramer?
Here.
Mr. Loeb?
Here.
Mr. Driscoll?
Here.
Mrs. Frazier?
Here.
Mr. Simpson?
Here.
Ms. Hogan?
Here.
Mr. Dickinson?
Here.
Mr. Merlino?
Here.
Mr. Strauss?
Here.
Mr. Wild?
Here.
Mr. Beatty?
Here.
Mr. McGowan?
Here.
Mr. Sokol? Mr. Thomas?
Here.
Ms. Hyde?
Here.
Mr. Garrity?
Here.
Chairman Conover?
Here. You should all have received the minutes of our December 15th board meeting and the January 4th organizational meeting. Cheryl will entertain a motion regarding the minutes. Mr. Simpson to approve, Ms. Bramer on the second. Discussion? We're ready for the question. All those in favor of approving the minutes as distributed signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. It was a fairly light, report of the chairman, fairly light month. On the 17th, like many of you, I attended the Finance Committee meeting, which is represented in your packet today. That afternoon, I also attended an Adirondack Park invasive plant program presentation in Lake George. The aquatic invasives, the terrestrial invasives is an issue that I think we're all going to be hearing a lot more about in the coming months and years. They presented what they had identified at Prospect Mountain and the approach they had taken on Prospect Mountain and what their remedial follow-on approach methodology is. And they also had speakers there that talked about terrestrial experience elsewhere in the state, the Catskills, and it was very informative. Supervisor Stroud was there as well. Perhaps he might have a few words on it as well. And that concludes my report. We haven't had very many committee meetings. Do we have any committee reports? Mr. Simpson?
I will fill in for Mr. Sokol. We did have a finance meeting on the 17th, something that was different than what's been done in the past, where we looked at all the various contracts that are approved in the beginning of the year. It was very good discussion, and I think going forward we've got a good plan of taking a look at these contracts and making sure that they're all tidy and ready to move forward. So today, 99% of the resolutions that you have are all financed. It would take me probably the next hour to read all these to you and explain them all. But we had a long day going through these last week, or this past week. So with that, I would appreciate your support on these resolutions.
Any other committee reports? Mr. Merlino.
Yeah, Parks O&M, the only resolution you have in your packet is 42. It's to rescind Resolution 373 of 2015, and all it is correcting fees and making a better fee structure for the use of the park.
Thank you. Supervisor Thomas.
Yes, on behalf of the board and the county treasurer, I would like to just report that it looks like for the year, we're up 2.2% on the sales tax, which equates to $1,130,000 additional over 2017. That's very good.
I would agree. That's good news. You do the same thing this year, would you, Frank? Thank you. Any other committee reports? Mr. Merlino.
Just adding on to that, I did some checking myself when I saw it. 2016, it was $1 million, and it's exactly what Frank says. It's 52 million plus. It's a million 130. That's 2.2, what Frank said. Occupancy tax in 2016 was 4,171,000. In 17, it's 4,257,000. That's 5% increase, and that increased by 185,000. And if you go back to the sales tax, and I went back as far as 2010. Sales tax in 2010 was 42,872,000, and in 2017 it's 52 million. So we're going up $1 million a year on an average, and even a little bit more. And occupancy tax in 2010 was 3,279,000. In 2017 it's 4,257,000. And the last thing too, you all got a book of the tourism, new travel guide promotion. Please take a look at it. It's really a great piece, and there's a lot of good information. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other committee reports? Peter.
Thank you,
Supervisor McDevitt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it. I'd just like to take this opportunity to welcome to my left Mayor Diamond from the city of Glens Falls, representing the East Enders of the city, the First Ward. Welcome, Jack, and also Ben Driscoll. I welcome you representing the Fifth Ward in the city, and you'll be, I think, wonderful additions to the board. So welcome.
Thank you, Peter. I look forward to working with everybody here. It's a little bit different format than I'm accustomed to, but it appears to be a nice change, and I look forward to everybody's comments and move forward in 2015.
Very good. Any other committee reports? There being none, a report by the county administrator.
It was a light month. We had some interview process in December for the county administrator. But other than that, we just came down and we did a training session. I've done a couple of training sessions with new supervisors. Hopefully they found it useful. We did have a full-day mandatory safety training session on December 21st. I thought that was educational about active shooters and how we handle them here at the county. Again, as Matt stated, the discussion on contracts and finance was very forthcoming and very revealing to us. It shows that we need to do a little bit more on contracts next year and get them out sooner, so we understand that. There are a few that we're going to hold back, at least one we're going to hold back until we get some more information. And then yesterday I held a department head meeting at 9 o'clock with the employees of the county, mainly to lay out, as being chair of the finance or personnel committee going forward, to lay out the 2018 performance evaluation timeline. I think it's being well received by our department heads. We had very few questions. I did give them a few highlights on the state budget. I don't have a lot. I'm not an expert on that, but I did share that with the department heads too. And basically my message to them is they do a good job. If you need something, go to your department chair and let them know that. Don't sit back and not come to us and ask if you really need something. But we all need to be aware that the 2% tax cap is going to become permanent. So that does make us have to be aware of our spending here at the county also. So I thought it was a good meeting. I've had some positive feedback from the employees so far. Also, I'd like to recognize two employees for 20 years of service, Joanne Finn in employment and training, and Mark Murray as probation. So those are their milestones this past month. And that's my report.
Thank you. Thank you, Phil. A report of the county attorney?
I have nothing to report.
No report. Reading of communications.
Report of criminal and family workloads for November 2017 from the Warren County Probation Department. Warren County Department of Weights and Measures monthly report for December 2017. Capital District Regional Off-Track Betting Corp. Financial report dated October 31, 2017. Minutes from the December 13th and 18th, 2017 meetings of the Warren Washington County IDA and CDC, as well as their executive committees. Letter from Kathy A. Cloutier, Executive Director of the SPCA of Upstate New York, dated January 2nd, 2018, regarding certain facets of the county's contract with the Warren County SPCA and suggesting that an as-needed contract would be beneficial. Excuse me. Letter from Libby Post, Executive Director of the New York State Animal Protection Federation, dated December 29, 2017, in support of the county's relationship with Warren County SPCA. Letter from Brian Shapiro, New York State Director of the Humane Society of the United States, dated January 3rd, 2018, also in support of the county's relationship with the Warren County SPCA. And email from June Maxim, Town of Chester resident, dated January 16th, 2018, containing an article from the North Creek Gazette entitled Warren County SPCA owes taxpayers $220,000.
Reading of resolutions.
Excuse me. Proposed resolution numbers 25 through 43 were mailed. Proposed resolution numbers 29 and 35 were amended after mailing based on action taken by the Finance Committee on their meeting January 17th. The revised resolutions were emailed to the board and posted to the county website yesterday. Copies are in your folders. A motion is needed to approve the amendments to resolution numbers 29 and 35 as presented.
Chair will entertain a motion regarding amendments to 29 and 35. Mr. Simpson, Mr. Leggett on the second. Any discussion? Ready for the question? All those in favor? We have discussion.
Chairman,
Supervisor Diamond.
I'm not accustomed to the procedures and policies, but is this the point where a supervisor would request discussions on a particular resolution?
You could request discussion on the amendment. The
Okay.
discussion on resolutions will follow. I'll ask for discussion, open discussion on each and every resolution that the supervisor wishes to discuss on the resolutions. You're welcome. Are we ready for the question then? All those in favor of the amendment to 29 and 35 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Amendment's carried.
Proposed resolution numbers 44 and 45 were approved at the January 17th Finance Committee meeting. Copies were emailed to all members of the Board of Supervisors and posted to the county website yesterday. Printed copies are in your folders. A motion is needed to bring proposed resolution numbers 44 and 45 to the floor.
Mr. Dickinson on the motion, Mr. Molino on the second. Discussion on the motion. Are we ready for the question? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Very good. And now I'll open the floor up to the audience. Any comments from anyone regarding any of the resolutions presently before the board? Mr. Whitehead?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also attended the finance meeting on the 17th, and I concur that it was a very good discussion, and I'm glad that that was added so that we did have the time to discuss these. Fully concur that Resolution 29 was withdrawn until we learn more. I do question Resolution 32. Just to mention that it didn't seem like anybody really understood what the Adirondack North Country Association does or did. And in the contract, it is stated that we're supposed to get a full report every September. And I can't find anybody that's seen one of those reports, and I'd like to see one of those reports if I get a chance to. Other than that, it was a great discussion, and I compliment the board. Thank you.
Can I just address ANCA? Is that the ANCA? Yeah. That's on our agenda to send them out a letter stating that we need an updated contract on what they do. I think, but Matt, are you familiar with it? I mean,
I am. They work throughout the entire Adirondacks and the whole region on things like green power, solar power, and trying to promote environmentally sound practices. And that's what I know.
Go ahead. Ms. Bramer?
Thanks. I believe they also do other research-related science projects, not necessarily environmental projects, but they also do projects related to businesses in the Adirondacks, trying to come at it from a research-based perspective.
Yes, and along with the economic development of promoting these environmentally sound practices.
But we can get we will receive the material, and we will distribute to each and every supervisor. And Mr. Whitehead, when we receive it, it'll be available to you as well. Mr. Thomas.
They have a website. There's probably a report on the website.
Anyone else in the audience wishing to comment on resolutions? There being none, no one else, I'll... Mr. Diamond, Mayor Diamond.
Oh, thank you very much.
I apologize for not being able to attend the finance committee the other day. I had another commitment that I couldn't break. But I just have a couple questions, primarily legal questions, to the attorney in regards to the contract with the one-time FPCA. I have here in front of me an amendment, but I also have the agreement dated back to 2016. I don't have a copy of the 17 agreement. I don't know if that's been changed, modified, or amended. But looking at this particular agreement here, it called for a report submitted to the county clerk no later than the Friday after Labor Day. Also, a performance report submitted in February of the following year, the upcoming year, based on performance issues during that previous year. I took the liberty to contact the clerk, and I was unable to find those reports. Apparently, that's been changed since the beginning of the first quarter of 17. The sheriff now has oversight over the Warren County SPCA organization, which I think that makes a lot of sense. But should we modify those areas of the contract that specifically state that these reports are filed with the county clerk? That's my question that I have in regards to that. I wasn't sure that should be part of the resolution that was informally adopted, or should that be part of the contract? That's my question.
I believe those reports are on file with the clerk of the board, not the county clerk. But if the contract does say county clerk, that should be.
It does say that, and I
then
did get the information from the sheriff's department, because my next point that I wanted to bring up, that the issue of whether we were getting injustice for $100,000 was raised by a member of the Board of Supervisors in past months. So I wanted to take the liberty to find out for myself if, in fact, where the county stood as far as $100,000 that we pay for services. And I was able to track down some information through the sheriff's department. It's very confusing, and it's very difficult to understand. And I just wanted to talk briefly about that billing process. They submit a voucher quarterly for $25,000. They also provide us with an overall cost of the contract for services for an annual basis. I think that in 2016 was right around $350,000. But that includes the entire county hall. My concern or questions was, as I started to go through the backup documents I have that I requested for the third quarter of 2017, they provided a call volume based on a log, based on calls that they received in a log format when they clicked into organizational chart. The problem that I'm having to decipher whether we're getting our value is that there's a lot of redundance in this report. I've got 27 pages of documents, and I'm sure the county attorney has difficulty understanding that as well as I do, and that's just for half the month of July. That doesn't include the remainder of that particular quarter. Thank God I ran out of paper on my printer, because I just still there reviewing them. But what I would like to suggest maybe going forward, and I don't want to break in service, I think they do a good job for the county, but to streamline the process where calls that are reflected in this report are calls that are associated directly to the county, which doesn't include, if you look at these reports, this particular report, backup report,
call the SPCA handles throughout Warren County. I don't think it's necessary for us to look at calls, dog calls, for example, Innetonic Queensbury, or wildlife calls in the village of King, the village itself can call, which could be taking calls. So I think that could improve our billing process and understanding better whether we're getting exactly what we're paying for. I'm not saying we're not, but I'm having a difficult time understanding whether we are or not. So that's something maybe I know that we're going to go with an RP process, and we're looking at an RP process in the next 6 months. Maybe that's something we need to consider going forward to improve our billing process in regards to the SPCA.
Did you have anything you wanted to, Mary?
I can address most of those concerns. The contract back in 2016 was under the clerk of the board. He does have all those reports, including the one due after Labor Day and the one due by February 1st. In 2017, because they submit quarterly reports, we thought that the one on Labor Day and the one due February 1st were just redundant because they submit a report every quarter. So they were basically just compiling all those reports and turning them in at one time. So we got rid of those 2 reports and just made them quarterly ones. And in 2017, it got shifted to the Sheriff's Department. So that's where you would get those reports. The reporting requirements in the contract, the report is supposed to be laid out in a fashion where it tells you what the call was, what town it was in, and then how much they spent on that call. So I realize those reports aren't laid out that way, and that's not technically proper pursuant to the contract. The oversight is by the sheriff, so unless it's brought to my attention, I don't know if they're meeting the reporting requirements. But going forward, that's definitely something we can
Good, thank you. I think it would just simplify us as we review the reports, both the one we use report on coming with about achieving
Any other discussion on Resolution 35? Mr. Beatty?
Yeah, thank you. Supervisor Diamond, this was all covered at the last meeting, and I know you haven't been able to attend, and that's too bad, but we're basically covering a lot of ground that we've covered in the last finance meeting and other meetings. And I agree that we need a county detailed report, and I think we all agreed to that. And again, I'm sorry you haven't been able to attend, but you know, that's really where we are, so thank you.
Okay. Anyone else wishing to discuss anything on Resolution 35? Ms. Bramer.
Thanks. I know that Supervisor Diamond wasn't there and didn't hear that discussion, but because of his questioning here, we were able to hear from the county attorney just now that they are not meeting the contractual reporting requirements, and that's what I was trying to say.
I think we all know that, right?
Yeah, that is, though, to have that information out in front of us as we're voting on 35 makes me a little bit hesitant. I think we need those services to continue, but to have them continue under the same contract when we know, Supervisor Beatty, that they aren't meeting those requirements, I mean, that's a problem that we've seen in others where we want to say, why should we renew a contract with someone that's not meeting the obligations? I just want us to get the best bang for our buck and to make sure that we have a contract that meets our needs and that they comply with that contract. I certainly think the SPCA is a needed organization here and that it has benefits to all the towns. I understand that.
Mr. Beatty, then Mr.
Yeah.
Thomas.
I agree with that. I've always been for fulfilling contracts. We seem to let some slide with the railroad. We seem to let some others slide. I have never, ever been for letting any contract slide in any means, shape, or form. I think this committee and other committees, well, actually other committees have addressed that definitely he needs to be better with his reporting and more detailed. That's never been an issue of not addressing. So I'm not quite sure what you're asking, but going forward, I don't think you'll find much pushback that he needs to be better at reporting under the contract stipulations to the county board and to, obviously, the county clerk. So I think we're all on board on that. Now, on the side issue, if you're saying that maybe we should not vote on this today or not, you know, I'm not quite sure where you're coming from today. If you're proposing to table it or something, that may be consideration. I may put that in consideration, but the fact of the matter is, I heard from the county sheriff, and I've heard from numerous people saying that this service we're getting is the absolute best out there. And too often, I'm sure the mayor can attest to, that when they call their own place, their own contracted company, they never show up. So Warren County ends up showing up. So the fact that, you know, with the Pitbull situation, they called their own and no one came, and they end up getting the Warren County one. I'm not saying this guy, Mr. Fitzgerald, and his operation is not without fault. They are not following the contract in certain cases by giving us the information that we have stated that we need in the contract. And I'm all for tightening that up and making sure that he ensures that he follows those. But I feel uncomfortable not having a service in place, and from all indications, again, this service that he provides is the absolute best in the area. I haven't heard anybody say not. So I guess we're caught in a dilemma. Do we just table this and not have any service? Is that what you're saying, Supervisor Bramer? Or are you saying something else?
Please, everyone, please try to speak to the chair. It's very important. Mr. Thomas?
Yes, well, to be cut to the short, this is a reimbursement contract. It's not a service contract. They don't get the money up front. If they're not meeting the contract, don't pay them. So, pretty easy.
Right. I'll come to you, Jack. Ms. Supervisor Diamond in a second. Supervisor McDevitt?
I thought we had extensive conversation on Tuesday regarding this issue. Extensive, emotional, a discussion that was on the verge of not even occurring, okay? So the discussion was healthy. We now have a resolution that basically is cut in half the time frame involved for the ASPCA. Why are we rehashing today an issue that we went into extensive dialogue last Tuesday? It was rather emotional, I thought, okay? And if people in this room could better understand the incident and the specifics of what occurred on New Year's Eve, I believe in the town of Arcon, and in terms of frozen animals, okay? New Year's Eve, this guy rents a U-Haul, drives up there, New Year's Eve, okay? And you know what? He answered his phone, okay? He answered his phone on New Year's Eve. What are we talking about here? We're talking about the humane treatment of animals. Now, we're talking about possibly tabling this? Come on. We have a resolution. We've talked about it. We did it in committee. Why are we doing it again? We can take care of the accounting issues, I think, going forward. Is that a valid issue? Of course it is, okay? So they have to do better. But at the end of the day, we have a service. Let's not put a void in that service going forward, and let's just try to move on.
Any other discussion on Resolution 35? Mr. Leggett?
Keep it quick here. To be clear, it's not about the humane treatment of animals. It's about the county's responsibility for paying for it, and that's what's at issue here.
Any other discussion on 35? Supervisor Diamond, absolutely.
I brought this up simply just to ask a couple of questions, legal questions. I'm not at all indicating or suggesting that we have a break in service. I think that we can modify the billing process very easily by sitting down with the county attorney along with the SPCA, streamline the billing process so the county can better understand and review the expense side of our fleet. That's all. I think that the service is important to continue on. We have a 6-month extension. I'm not opposed to that by any means. I like the idea that we're going to consider possible RFPs with maybe consolidation. All of those things are good things to get done. But all I was trying to point out was a couple of contracts changes that may need to be addressed along with the billing process. I think we can do that, work through that rather quickly through the month of January and February so we can prepare ourselves for that RFP process going forward.
if in fact you take on a budget.
I'm almost afraid to ask. Any other discussion on 35? There being none, I'll close discussion on 35. Discussion on other resolutions. Ms. Bramer?
Thanks. I just want to be clear that 29 is withdrawn. We're not voting on that today, Amanda. Thanks.
That's correct.
Okay.
That is correct. It should be labeled. Is it labeled?
It is.
Yeah, okay, it should be labeled as such.
It is legal.
Discussion on any other resolutions. Roll call. I'm sorry. Excuse me. Supervisor Bramer.
Thank you
Mhm.
very much. Is there anything on about the resolution that Supervisor Merlino brought to the Finance Committee at the end of that meeting? I don't see anything. I just want to be clear.
I believe, Mary, you can speak to this. I believe our research of the contract indicates that it can be extended without action by the board. There are extension provisions as part of the contract. And that between now and some future date, we'll transition into a new work program at the dollar amount that was budgeted. Those dollars haven't gone anywhere. They're right there in the budget. Supervisor Bramer.
We are still going out on the RFP, though.
Absolutely.
Ms. Butler. Okay.
Absolutely. We have to. We're required
We
to.
have to. Yes.
Mr. Merlino, would you like to?
No, I said enough.
Okay, very good. Discussion on any other resolutions? There being none, a roll call request. Vote on resolutions.
We only have one roll call, and that's for Resolution 41, amending Table of Organization and Warren County Salary and Compensation Plan. Mr. Loeb?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Garrity?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Chairman Conover?
Yes. We need a motion in a second, right? Okay. Vote on the collective. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Isn't this out of order? Yeah, I believe the agenda is out of order. At this time, I would like to open up the privilege of the floor to the audience to speak on any matter that deals with Warren County, and you can step to the microphone and speak to it at this time. Kathy?
Hello. I'm Kathy Bizzoni, and Amanda had forwarded to you an email yesterday inviting you to join myself and Clean Energy Communities. I'm currently working with the town of Queensbury. We've created a Clean Energy Communities, and we are approaching a Solarize Queensbury campaign. And we'd like to open it to all of Warren County, any town, village that would like to join us in this Solarize campaign. You may want to look at becoming a clean energy community as well, but that's not imperative for joining us on this campaign. We're hoping to get approval by NYSERDA by probably early March, put out a request for proposal to Solarize vendors, and then have a kickoff meeting and event in April and run right through the end of November. We are anticipating that there will be discounts, incentives, things like that coming from these Solarize vendors, or solar vendors that we actually select for the program. We are a community that is approaching this along with Albany, Schenectady, Troy, Saratoga. They've all been part of these Solarize campaigns through NYSERDA, and successfully so. We are working, the town of Queensbury and the Clean Energy Communities is working with NYSERDA, Robin Reynolds as well, who has done this program with other communities, is working very closely with us. And any questions of anybody, please feel free to call me. You can ask us right now. But we will have more details as the application and all is submitted to NYSERDA in the near future.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address it? Mr. Whitehead?
Mr. Chairman. Travis White at Queensbury. I am a member of that committee, and this is a win-win, and I know I've talked to a few of you individually, and I encourage you to look into it further, but there are some additional benefits for many of your residents that might want to take advantage that wouldn't have been there otherwise. The other thing I want to bring up is not, maybe you don't want to brought up, but I think it's going to affect us for the balance of the year. And I still have concerns when I'm reading the committee assignments, how they were chosen. And in particular, I note that Claudia Bramer, who has been a leading representative on the facilities committee, is no longer on that committee. And the chairman of that committee has never even attended a committee meeting. So I just kind of wonder how those kinds of assignments get made if you're looking at qualifications, best people there. In addition, it looks like Ms. Bramer was slated not having a chairmanship at all, when she would be very qualified for the environmental chairmanship, and which is now held as a second chair by Mr. Dickinson. So those just kind of strike me wrong, and since this is supposed to be an open and fair administration, I wonder if you could take a few minutes and explain the reasoning behind those assignments.
Normally I wouldn't, but I think I will briefly. Committee assignments and chairs are the appointment of the chairman of the board.
Yes.
Had Mr. McDevitt been elected chairman of the board, he would have made his assignments. Had he chosen anyone else as, for example, as chairman of finance, that would not have been political retaliation against Matt Sokol or anything else. Those are the appointments of the chair. A lot goes into those appointments, how many people on what committees, how many on each committee. There's a whole process that I go through. I don't ever claim to be perfect in the process, but a lot goes into it. And but the suggestion that as a result of the vote or the election that committee assignments were somehow modified or changed is simply wrong. That's not correct. Most of those assignments, if not all, were all determined well in advance of the meeting by me.
Right.
And they go into the work program that we have going forward. I have the utmost respect for everyone on the board, and everyone's given free access to participate at the committee meetings, whether you're on the committee or not on the committee, and as well as here at the board level. And that's my answer. That was my public answer. That's my answer today.
Right. And it certainly is your privilege as chairman, but it's also a reason to select a chairman or not based on those decisions. And I don't think these were based on qualifications. They were based on something else. So that's my opinion. I can have that too.
Yes, you're entitled to have your opinion.
Thank you.
So am I.
May I get back to the solarize for just one moment, if I can?
I would like that, Peter.
This is Kathy. Thank you for your participation. I think it's a component of this county that needs attention, and I thank you for that. This is, in an unusual way, a rather historic moment, and we may never see this again, okay, where Travis Whitehead and Supervisor Stroud actually agree on something, you know? I mean, so I think we ought to note this historically. Maybe we ought to call the Warren County historian up to note this moment, but we may never see it again. But I hope we do.
I thank you for documenting that here today. Any other announcements? Ms. Bramer.
I do have a comment, and I know it's uncomfortable. Travis brought it up, so I'm going to thank you, Travis. I am disappointed that I am not on the airport committee. I am also disappointed I'm not chair of environmental concerns and real property. I do think I'm qualified and that I've been doing a lot of work. I am more disappointed by my treatment at the last meeting by Supervisor Dickinson, and I think I would have received an apology by now, but I have not. I do appreciate the respect that Supervisor Chairman Conover gives to everyone in our board meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other announcements? Supervisor Beatty?
Yeah, I'd like to opine also. Having the most qualified supervisors on the committees is a responsibility of the chairman. Every resident of Warren County expects the best of the best, not the second best, not the third best, not the fourth best. Claudia Bramer is an environmental lawyer. There's not one lawyer on this board, not one. She has taken command and chairmanship of that committee, environmental concerns and real property, for the last 6 months, as Mr. Brock, who's now left, deemed it necessary because of her expertise. So the position comes open, the chairmanship. There's no doubt about it, she's the most qualified person in this room to lead that committee, yet she doesn't. And Mr. Chairman, with all due respect, it makes zero sense what you just said a few minutes ago. Yeah, you have the right to pick who you want, but you didn't pick the most qualified, and that's blatant for everybody in this room to see.
Well, Mr. Beatty, you're entitled to your opinion.
Are you going to interrupt, sir? I'm not done.
Actually, you're out of order, but I'll let you continue. Go ahead.
I'm out of order for speaking my opinion. Okay, thank you.
There are no action items on the agenda.
Okay, so the second thing I was going to mention was the fact that we have serious environmental concerns out at the airport. That's a known fact. So, who's the environmental lawyer in this group? Oh, Claudia Bramer. Who's been on the facilities committee and driving much of the discussion? Claudia Bramer. So what do? We take her off the facilities committee, we put 4 brand new supervisors on it, 1 to chair the committee, and we think that's the best qualifications for making these people put on the committee. I'm flabbergasted that we make decisions, you, Mr. Chairman, in all due respect, that don't make sense, and nobody in this room knows they would agree with his decision on that. I know that. We're all smart people, or at least we have some common sense. It doesn't make any sense. And then finally, I too was appalled at the organizational meeting when a fellow colleague interrupted a colleague rudely. We don't interrupt colleagues around here. That's not the way we do business. We let them say their piece. We respect that. We may not agree with that, but we allow that to happen. That's called democracy and progress and being civil. I don't agree with a lot of the opinions on this board, but I do not interrupt. I do not interrupt. I allow you to say your piece in a civil manner, and I won't be rude to you. And I'd like to see that as part of our mantra going forward. And I hope Mr. Dickinson finds the time to apologize to Ms. Bramer for last 2 weeks ago, and we can move forward as a group. Let's move forward in a positive manner. That's what I want to see. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. And just so everyone, Mr. Thomas.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second to the motion? Ms. Frazier, thank you.
Come on, guys. Come on.
So you don't have to adjourn.
I just like to add something.
I'll read your rules.
Just a moment. We have a motion on the floor to adjourn. We have a second to the motion. Do you gentlemen wish to withdraw the motions?
No, I haven't made it.
I just have one quick thing.
Let's go back then. You raised your hand to speak. Was there a second on the motion to adjourn? If not, there was a second, Ms. Frazier, on the motion to adjourn. Alrighty, we better read the roll on the motion to adjourn.
Mr. Lowe?
No.
Mr. Driscoll?
No.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Simpson?
No.
Ms. Hogan?
No.
Mr. Dickinson?
No.
Mr. Merlino?
No.
Mr. Strauss?
No.
Mr. Wild?
No.
Mr. Beatty?
No.
Mr. McGowan?
No.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
No.
Mr. Garrity?
No.
Mr. Leggett?
No.
Mr. Diamond?
No.
Mr. McDevitt?
No.
Ms. Bramer?
No.
Chairman Conover?
No. Motion fails. Let me see. Who am I calling on now? Just a second, Supervisor Diamond. Supervisor Dickinson, I believe you had your hand raised first.
Are you worried?
No.
I have two things. First, I'd like to welcome my desk mate here, Andrea Hogan, to the board, representing the glorious town of Johnsburg. I was going to say she had large shoes to fill, but I don't think Ron ever wore any shoes. But he did have toe rings and sandals, but we're glad to have you on board. It's good to have somebody different to represent. The second thing is a quote from Dennis the Menace, who's no relation. He said it's impolite to talk with your mouth full of dumb ideas. And I think we all should think about that before we run our mouths.
Thank you. You're welcome. Supervisor Diamond.
I'd just like to thank the board for the support on Resolution 31, where we're appropriating money once again for the improvements to our recreational facilities in the city of Glens Falls. It's just to show that the board understands the need for the improvements ongoing at the rec center that we're now in place. Queensbury's hockey team, along with the city of Glens Falls hockey team, and it allows us to improve our recreation facilities in the city. So thank you very much for your support.
You're welcome. Announcements. Supervisor Lowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This past week I've been started meeting with the 10 departments that are part of the support committee. As you know, we have very talented people on our staff who are working for the citizens of the County of Warren, and I look forward to taking the reins to help them continue to do a fantastic job. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Welcome back, by the way. Thank you. Any other announcements? Supervisor Strauss?
Yes, and as you mentioned, you and I both attended the Hemlock Foley Aldeget conference, which was well attended, standing room only in the town of Lake George Village Hall. And yeah, it is something to be concerned about. These little bugs draw on the sap of the trees, and then their process disallows the tree's sap from getting to its leaves and therefore kills the tree eventually. And they target specifically hemlocks. Hemlocks are very important trees to the ecological balance of any watershed area, as we all know. So it is a concern. They are investigating and experimenting with controls of this little bug, both chemical and biological. And we did have an incidence of this bug, the aldeget, on Prospect Mountain. So we're working on it. The measure is to be alert, take a look at your hemlock trees and see if you got the little white spots that indicate these little aldeget bugs on them. And if so, report them. I too did attend the active shooters training, which I thought was very well conducted by the Warren County Sheriff's Department. I also went to the county's e-waste collection training. We have a new e-waste collector, ERI, and I saw many of your solid waste folks at this training. We're going to have to adapt a little bit. We're hoping ERI, who is the winning bidder for e-waste pickup and e-waste collection, we hope that they are a little bit flexible in the way they do it. It's a national firm. They were the low bidder. But I think we'll work out the bugs, nothing related to the aldeget, but we'll work out the bugs. Also, I want to thank Kathy Bozzoni, Robin Reynolds, and Travis Whitehead, who are present here in this Clean Energy Communities campaign. And the Solarize campaign, I think, is something that you would want your town to be involved with. So go online, check out the state's Clean Energy Communities website, and look up Solarize, and I think you'll see the benefits. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Announcements, Mr. Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tuesday I had the opportunity to attend the committee meeting and was impressed to walk into a standing room only room. I think that speaks to the dedication and the sincerity of elected officials and the public to want to engage in open conversation and dialogue about
very important issues moving forward with the county. I also, being a new member of the board, I have had the opportunity over the last 32 years to work with the Warren County Department of Social Services, and I would like to publicly thank Commissioner Maureen Schmidt on her retirement, but also to remind people what a real jewel of employees and department that we have with the Department of Social Services under her leadership over the last number of years. But they do good work. They help improve the quality of life of all people from Warren County, and again, I'd like to congratulate her on her retirement.
Very good. Announcements? Motion to adjourn. Mr. Dickinson, Mr. McDevitt, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.